Some people say miracles don't happen anymore, that Christmas magic is just something we tell children. But on Christmas Eve, when a cowboy found a frightened teenager hiding in his barn, shivering and alone, neither of them knew they were about to discover something that would change both their lives forever. This is a story about finding home when you've lost everything, and finding love in the most unexpected place. The wind howled across the Montana plains like a wounded animal, driving snow sideways against the weathered boards of Jesse McCrane's barn. At 42, Jesse had seen his share of brutal winters, but this Christmas Eve storm was something else entirely, the kind of cold that seeped into your bones and made you wonder if spring was just a fever dream. He pulled his Carhartt jacket tighter as he trudged from the main house toward the barn, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The horses would need checking one more time before he could settle in for the night with nothing but Jack Daniels and the ghost of Christmases past for company. The barn door creaked as he pushed it open, and immediately he sensed something wrong. Duke, his oldest gelding, was stamping nervously in his stall, ears pricked forward toward the back of the barn. Jesse's hand instinctively went to the utility knife on his belt, not much of a weapon, but out here you learn to be cautious. "Who's there?" His voice carried through the dim space, illuminated only by the single bulb near the entrance. Silence, then a small sound, almost like a sob, quickly stifled. Jesse moved forward slowly, his boots crunching on the hay-strewn floor. "I'm not gonna hurt you, but this is my property and I need to know who you are." In the far corner, behind a stack of hay bales, he found him. A kid, couldn't be more than 19 or 20, curled up in a ratty sleeping bag, shivering violently despite the layers of clothes visible beneath. His face was partially hidden by a knit cap pulled low, but Jesse could see the fear in his eyes, wide and dark and desperate. "Jesus Christ," Jesse breathed, "how long have you been out here?" The young man's lips were tinged blue, his whole body trembling. Please," he managed through chattering teeth. I'll leave, I'm sorry, it was so cold." Jesse didn't hesitate. He crossed the distance between them, crouching down to get a better look. The kid flinched away, and something in that movement, that automatic expectation of violence, made Jesse's chest tighten. "Easy now," Jesse said, softening his voice the way he did with spooked horses. "You're half frozen, come on up to the house. We'll get you warmed up and then we can talk." "I don't want trouble." "Only trouble you're in right now is hypothermia," Jesse interrupted. "I'm not calling the cops or whatever you're scared of, but I'm not letting you die in my barn on Christmas Eve either. Now come on." He reached out a hand. The young man stared at it for a long moment, as if he'd forgotten that hands could offer help instead of harm. Finally, with visible effort, he reached out and let Jesse pull him to his feet. The kid was taller than Jesse had expected, maybe 5'11", but painfully thin beneath all those layers. He swayed slightly and Jesse caught him by the elbow. "When did you last eat?" Yesterday, maybe the day before, I'm not sure." Jesse bit back a curse. "All right, one step at a time, let's get you inside." The walk to the house took longer than it should have. The young man's legs were unsteady and twice Jesse had to support him when he stumbled. By the time they reached the porch, Jesse was half carrying him. Inside, the warmth of the wood stove hit them like a wall. Jesse guided his unexpected guest to the couch, grabbing quilts from the closet and wrapping them around those shaking shoulders. "Stay put," he ordered, moving to the kitchen. He put coffee on to brew and started heating up the beef stew he'd made earlier. As he worked, he studied his guest more carefully. Now that the kid had pushed back his cap, Jesse could see his face properly. He was beautiful, there was no other word for it. High cheekbones, full lips, and those enormous dark eyes that seemed to take up half his face. His hair was black and wavy, falling past his ears. Latino, Jesse thought, with features that reminded him of the classical paintings he'd seen once in a museum in Billings. But it was the weariness that struck Jesse most, an exhaustion that went far beyond physical tiredness. This was someone who'd been running for a long time. Here, Jesse handed him a mug of coffee, heavily sugared. "Drink this slowly, don't gulp it or you'll make yourself sick." The young man wrapped both hands around the mug like it was a lifeline. "Thank you," he whispered. You don't understand what this means." "I understand you needed help." Jesse settled into the armchair across from him. "I'm Jesse McCrane, this is my ranch." "I'm Alex Rivera." Well, Alex Rivera, once you get some food in you and stop looking like a ghost, you're going to tell me what the hell you're doing half frozen in a barn in the middle of nowhere on Christmas Eve. Alex's hands tightened on the mug. It's complicated. Most things worth explaining are. They sat in silence while Alex drank his coffee and Jesse went to check on the stew. The quiet wasn't uncomfortable exactly, but it was loaded with unasked questions. When Jesse brought over a bowl of stew and a thick slice of bread, Alex's eyes filled with tears. Hey now, Jesse said awkwardly, it's just food. It's not just food, Alex replied, his voice breaking. It's kindness, and I haven't had much of that lately. He ate slowly, carefully, and Jesse tried not to notice the way Alex's hands shook or the way he kept glancing toward the door like he expected it to burst open at any moment. How old are you? Jesse asked. 20, just turned in November. And where are you from? Alex hesitated, then seemed to decide honesty was owed to the man who'd saved his life. Texas, originally, but I've been moving around. Running, Jesse corrected gently. You've been running, question is from what? Alex set down his spoon, his appetite apparently deserting him. From who? Actually, my family, well, my father mostly. Jesse waited, letting the silence encourage confession. I'm gay, Alex said finally, the words tumbling out fast like he expected them to detonate. I came out when I was 17 and my father, he's very traditional, very Catholic, he tried to fix me, conversion therapy, church camps, you name it. When I turned 18 I thought I could just leave, but Alex's voice caught. He has connections. Every time I tried to settle somewhere he'd find me, send people, sometimes pastors who wanted to counsel me. Sometimes just guys who thought they could beat it out of me. Jesse's jaw tightened. Jesus. So I kept moving. I've been on the road for almost 2 years now, sleeping wherever I could, taking work where I could find it. I was trying to get to Billings, heard there was LGBTQ plus community resources there, but my car broke down about 50 miles south of here. I walked as far as I could, but the storm, he shrugged helplessly. I saw your barn, I'm sorry for trespassing. I'll leave as soon as the weather clears. The hell you will, Jesse said firmly. Storm's supposed to last through tomorrow at least, and even if it wasn't, you're not going anywhere until you're healthy and rested. Alex looked up sharply. You don't care that I'm gay. Jesse met his eyes steadily. Alex, I don't give a damn who you love. What I care about is that you're 20 years old and you've been living like a fugitive because your own father couldn't accept you. That's what pisses me off. Something shifted in Alex's expression, a crack in the armor he'd been wearing. His eyes filled with tears again, but this time he didn't try to hide them. I don't understand, he whispered. Why are you being so kind to me? You don't know me. Jesse leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. Because somebody helped me once when I needed it, and because it's Christmas Eve and no one should be alone and scared on Christmas Eve. Are you? Alex trailed off, the question hanging in the air. Gay, Jesse supplied. Yeah, have been my whole life. Took me until I was 30 to actually admit it and another few years to stop caring what people thought. Lost my ranch hand and lover about 5 years back. He moved to Seattle for better opportunities. Haven't really been interested in anyone since. The admission surprised Jesse himself. He didn't talk about Marcus often, didn't like to dwell on that particular ache, but something about Alex's vulnerability made him want to offer his own in return. You live here alone? Alex asked. Just me and the horses now. It's a small operation. I breed and train quarter horses, board a few for folks in town. It's quiet, but it's mine. It sounds peaceful. It is most of the time. Jesse stood, gathering Alex's empty bowl. You look dead on your feet. The guest room's upstairs, second door on the right. There's a bathroom attached. You can shower, get cleaned up, and there should be clothes in the dresser that'll fit you. They were Marcus's. He was about your size. Alex rose slowly, still wrapped in quilts. Jesse, I don't know how to thank you. Don't thank me yet, we'll figure out a plan in the morning, but tonight you're safe, that's enough. As Alex headed toward the stairs, Jesse called out, "And Alex, Merry Christmas." Alex turned, and for the first time since Jesse had found him, he smiled. It was small and tentative, but it transformed his face, chasing away some of the shadows. Merry Christmas, Jesse. After Alex disappeared upstairs, Jesse stood alone in his living room, listening to the storm rage outside and the old pipes creak as the shower started. He'd thought this Christmas Eve would be like all the others since Marcus left, quiet, lonely, just another night to get through. But now there was someone else in his house. Someone young and scared and beautiful, with sad eyes and a smile that made Jesse's chest ache in ways he'd forgotten were possible. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but for tonight, for this moment, his house didn't feel quite so empty. And maybe, just maybe, that was its own kind of Christmas miracle. Jesse woke on Christmas morning to the smell of coffee and something else, bacon. He sat up in bed, disoriented until memory flooded back. Alex, the kid he'd found in the barn. He pulled on jeans and a flannel shirt, running a hand through his graying hair before heading downstairs. The sight that greeted him made him stop in the doorway. Alex stood at the stove, wearing one of Marcus's old t-shirts and a pair of sweatpants that hung low on his narrow hips. His hair was still damp from the shower, curling at the nape of his neck. He was humming something soft and melodic as he cooked, and the morning light streaming through the window seemed to paint him in gold. "You didn't have to cook," Jesse said, announcing his presence. Alex jumped slightly, then turned with that tentative smile from last night. "I wanted to, you saved my life, the least I can do is make breakfast." "How'd you sleep?" "Like the dead, that bed is incredibly comfortable. And it's the first time in months I wasn't worried someone would find me while I was unconscious." The casual way Alex said it, like fear was just a normal part of existence, made Jesse's heart clench. He moved into the kitchen, pouring himself coffee from the fresh pot. "Storm's still going strong," Jesse observed, glancing out the window at the wall of white. "We're pretty snowed in, might be a few days before the roads are passable." He watched Alex's face carefully, trying to gauge his reaction. Would the kid feel trapped, anxious to leave? Instead, Alex's shoulders seemed to relax slightly. "I don't mind, if that's okay with you." "More than okay, I could use the company, and honestly there's work to be done around here. You can help out if you want to earn your keep." "I'd like that," Alex said quickly. "I'm good with my hands. I used to help my grandfather on his farm before he passed. I know my way around horses too." They ate breakfast together at the small kitchen table, the conversation flowing easier than Jesse would have expected. Alex talked about his grandfather, his mother's father, who'd been the only family member to show him unconditional love. Jesse shared stories about the ranch, about the horses he'd trained, about the quiet rhythms of life out here on the plains. What Jesse didn't mention was how hyper-aware he was of Alex's presence. The way his long fingers wrapped around his coffee mug, the sound of his laugh, rare but genuine, the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He's 20 years old, Jesse reminded himself firmly, and he's vulnerable, don't be that guy. But awareness wasn't interest, he told himself. It was just noticing. Anyone would notice someone as striking as Alex. After breakfast, they bundled up and headed out to tend the horses. The barn was marginally warmer than outside, and the animals nickered in greeting as they entered. Jesse watched as Alex approached Duke, the old gelding who was usually suspicious of strangers. Alex held out his hand, murmuring something soft in Spanish, and Duke practically melted, pushing his nose into Alex's palm. "You really do have a way with them," Jesse said, impressed. "Animals don't judge," Alex replied simply. "They don't care if you're different, they just feel who you are." They worked in comfortable silence, mucking stalls and distributing hay and feed. Jesse found himself stealing glances at Alex, the way he moved with unconscious grace, the concentration on his face as he worked, the strand of hair that kept falling into his eyes. "Tell me about him," Alex said suddenly. "Marcus, if you don't mind talking about it." Jesse considered demurring, but something about Alex's open expression made him want to share. "We met at a rodeo about 8 years ago. He was half my age, full of fire and dreams. I was just starting to accept myself, and he was so unapologetic about who he was, it was intoxicating." "What happened?" "Nothing dramatic, we just wanted different things. He wanted the city community to be around other queer folks. I wanted this," Jesse gestured around them. "The land, the quiet, the work. We tried to make it work for 3 years, but eventually we had to admit we were making each other unhappy." "Do you regret it, staying here instead of going with him?" Jesse thought about it, really thought about it. "No, this land is part of me. I couldn't breathe in the city, but I regret not fighting harder to find a compromise, and I regret that after he left I just shut down, stopped trying to connect with anyone." "You connected with me," Alex said softly. Their eyes met across the barn and something electric passed between them. Jesse felt it in his gut, a pull he hadn't experienced in years. From the way Alex's breath caught, he felt it too. No, Jesse thought firmly, don't complicate this. He needs a safe place, not another man taking advantage of him. He cleared his throat, looking away. We should head back in. I'll teach you how to make my grandmother's tamales. Might as well have a proper Christmas dinner. If Alex noticed the deflection, he didn't comment. They trudged back through the snow, and Jesse tried to ignore how right it felt to have someone beside him, filling the silence that had stretched too long. The next 3 days fell into an easy rhythm. They worked together during the day, tending animals, repairing a section of fence, reorganizing the tack room. In the evenings, they cooked dinner together, watched old movies, and talked about everything and nothing. Jesse learned that Alex loved poetry, that he'd been studying literature before his world fell apart. Alex learned that Jesse had a weakness for terrible action movies and could recite entire passages of Lonesome Dove from memory. But beneath the easy companionship, tension built. Jesse caught himself watching Alex more often, the curve of his neck when he bent over a book, the way his laugh transformed his whole face, the unconscious grace of his movements. And sometimes when he looked up, he'd find Alex watching him too, with an expression that made Jesse's pulse quicken. On the third night after dinner, they sat by the fire with whiskey. The storm had finally broken, and tomorrow the roads would likely be clear enough for travel. I should probably start figuring out my next move, Alex said quietly, staring into his glass. I've imposed on your hospitality long enough. You haven't imposed, Jesse said firmly. And where would you go? You said yourself your father has people looking for you. I can't stay here forever, Jesse. You have a life and I'm a complication you don't need. What if I want the complication? The words hung in the air between them. Alex's head snapped up, his eyes wide and searching. What are you saying? He whispered. Jesse set down his glass, his heart hammering. I'm saying, stay, not as a guest, as someone who lives here, who works here. I could use the help and you need somewhere safe. We get along, it makes sense. Jesse, I can't ask you to. You're not asking, I'm offering. Jesse leaned forward, needing Alex to understand. These past few days having you here, this house has felt like a home again. I forgot what that was like, and I know there's more to this than just practicality. I know you feel it too. Alex's hands trembled slightly. I do feel it, but Jesse, I'm 20 years old, you're established. Mature, you have your life figured out. What could you possibly want with someone like me? Someone like you? Jesse repeated, incredulous. Alex, you're brilliant and kind and resilient as hell. You've survived things that would have broken most people. You make me laugh. You make me want to wake up in the morning. That's not about age, that's about connection. But the age difference is just a number. You're an adult, I'm an adult. If there's something real here, we owe it to ourselves to explore it. Alex stood abruptly, packing to the window. What if I'm just confused? What if I'm projecting because you saved me and I'm grateful and you're the first person who's been kind to me in so long? Jesse rose too, approaching slowly. That's why I'm not asking for anything beyond you staying. We'll take it slow, see what develops naturally, no pressure, no expectations, just see where this goes. Alex turned to face him, and in his eyes Jesse saw hope warring with fear. I'm scared, he admitted. I'm scared of wanting this too much, of ruining it, of my father finding me and bringing danger to your door. Let me worry about your father, Jesse said with more confidence than he felt. And as for ruining it, Alex, I don't think that's possible. Whatever this is between us, it's worth the risk. What is this between us? Alex asked, his voice barely audible. Jesse closed the distance between them, reaching up to cup Alex's face gently. Alex leaned into the touch like a man starved for gentleness. I don't know yet, Jesse admitted, but I'd like to find out if you're willing. Alex's eyes fluttered closed. There was one guy back in Texas, but we were just kids and I don't have experience with this. Then we'll figure it out together. Jesse's thumb brushed across Alex's cheekbone. Can I kiss you? Alex's eyes opened, dark and fathomless. Please. Jesse had kissed his share of men over the years, but nothing had prepared him for the feeling of Alex's lips against his. It was soft and tentative at first, a question more than a statement. But then Alex made a small sound in the back of his throat and pressed closer, and the kiss deepened into something that made Jesse's knees weak. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Alex rested his forehead against Jesse's. "Stay," Jesse murmured, "stay with me." "Okay," Alex breathed, "okay, I'll stay." They stood there in the firelight holding each other, and Jesse felt something he'd thought was dead kindle back to life in his chest. Hope, possibility, the terrifying, exhilarating promise of something new. Outside, the winter wind sang against the windows, but inside, wrapped in each other's warmth, they had everything they needed. The weeks that followed were a revelation for both of them. Alex settled into ranch life with surprising ease, his natural affinity for the work becoming evident quickly. Jesse taught him the finer points of horse training, and Alex proved to have an almost intuitive understanding of the animals. Together, they developed a partnership that extended beyond just the work. They moved around each other with an ease that felt like choreography, anticipating needs and complementing strengths. But it was in the quiet moments that their relationship truly deepened. Late January found them in the barn on a Sunday afternoon, Alex brushing down Juniper, a young mare Jesse was training, while Jesse repaired a broken saddle nearby. The radio played softly, some old country song about heartache and redemption. "I never thought I could have this," Alex said suddenly. "Peace, a place where I don't have to hide who I am." Jesse looked up from his work. In the weeks since Christmas, Alex had filled out slightly, the gauntness leaving his face. He looked healthier, happier, but more than that, he looked like he belonged. "You deserve it," Jesse said simply. "You deserve everything good." Alex set down the brush, moving to where Jesse sat. "Can I tell you something I've been afraid to say?" "Always." "I'm falling in love with you." The words came out in a rush, like Alex had been holding them back too long. "I know it's fast, and I know I'm still figuring out who I am, but Jesse, when I'm with you, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Jesse's breath caught. He set aside the saddle, reaching for Alex's hands. "You're not alone in that. I've been falling since the moment I found you in my barn, looking like a half-frozen guardian angel." "Guardian angel?" Alex laughed, the sound bright and genuine. "I was terrified and half dead." "You were beautiful, you are beautiful." Jesse pulled him closer. "And I love you too. It probably makes me a fool, but I don't care." Alex kissed him then, and it still felt new and electrifying, like coming home and setting off fireworks all at once. When they pulled apart, Alex was smiling, that rare, full smile that made Jesse's heart skip. "What do we do now?" Alex asked. "I mean, I'm still technically on the run. My father has a son who's an adult and can make his own choices," Jesse interrupted firmly. "And if he comes looking for you here, he'll have to go through me." "Jesse, he's not a good man. He has money, connections. And I have something he doesn't. I have you, willingly choosing to be here. That's worth more than all his money and connections combined." But Jesse's bravado was tested sooner than he expected. It was mid-February when the black SUV rolled up the long driveway. Jesse was in the paddock with Alex, working with a particularly stubborn colt. When he saw the vehicle approach, he felt Alex go rigid beside him. "It's him," Alex whispered, his face draining of color. "That's my father's car." Jesse's jaw tightened. "Go inside, let me handle this." "No," Alex's voice was stronger now, though his hands shook. "No more running. If this is my home, I need to stand my ground." Three men emerged from the SUV, two large men in suits who screamed private security, and a third man in his 50s with iron-gray hair and Alex's eyes. Hector Rivera exuded the kind of authority that came from never being told no. "Alejandro," Hector said, his voice carrying across the yard, "enough of this foolishness, it's time to come home." "This is my home now," Alex replied, and Jesse felt a surge of pride at the steadiness in his voice. Hector's gaze flickered to Jesse dismissively before returning to his son. "Don't be ridiculous, you're living in sin with this man disgracing our family." "The only disgrace is how you treated your son," Jesse interrupted, stepping forward. "Mr. Rivera, I'm Jesse McCrane and this is my property. Alex is here by choice and he's an adult. You have no legal claim on him. I'm his father, I know what's best for him." "You tried to break him," Jesse said, his voice hard as flint. "You tried to strip away who he is because it didn't fit your narrow worldview. That's not love, that's control." Hector's face darkened. You know nothing about my son or my family. I know that Alex is brilliant and kind and deserves to be loved for exactly who he is. And I know that I love him and he loves me, and that's all that matters. Dad, Alex said, his voice cracking slightly. I tried for years to be what you wanted. I went to your church, attended your therapy sessions, prayed until my knees bled, and I was miserable, suicidal. This, he gestured around them, this life, this love, it saved me. Jesse saved me. He's corrupted you. He accepted me? Alex's voice rose, years of pain and anger finally finding release. For the first time in my life, someone looked at me and saw me, all of me, and didn't flinch, didn't try to change me, just loved me. Tears streamed down Alex's face now, but he stood tall, no longer the frightened boy hiding in a barn. I'm gay, Dad. I've always been gay. Your camps and prayers didn't change that, they just taught me to hate myself. But I'm done hating myself. I'm done running. This is where I belong, and if you can't accept that, then you need to leave. Hector stared at his son, something flickering in his eyes, pain, perhaps, or recognition. For a moment, Jesse thought the man might actually see reason. Then his face hardened into granite. If you choose this life, choose this perversion, then you are no longer my son. The words hit like physical blows. Jesse saw Alex flinch, saw the pain cross his face, and he moved instinctively to Alex's side, wrapping an arm around his waist in silent support. Then I guess I'm no longer your son, Alex said quietly. I'm sorry you can't love me as I am, I really am, but I won't apologize for being happy. Hector turned away, his shoulders stiff. You'll regret this, he said over his shoulder. When the novelty wears off and you're stuck in this nowhere place with nothing and no one. He'll have me, Jesse said firmly, and this land. And a life built on honesty and love, that's not nothing. Hector climbed back into the SUV without another word. As the vehicle rolled back down the driveway, Alex sagged against Jesse, the adrenaline leaving him trembling. I can't believe I did that, he whispered. You were incredible, Jesse murmured into his hair, so brave. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's normal, you just stood up to your worst fear. They stood there for a long moment, holding each other as the dust settled from the departing car. Finally, Alex pulled back, wiping his eyes. He really disowned me. I know, and I'm sorry. I know it hurts, even when it's what you needed. It does hurt, but Jesse, I also feel free. For the first time in my life, I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm not wondering when he'll find me. It's over. Jesse cupped his face gently. What do you want to do now? Alex managed a watery smile. I want to finish training that stubborn colt. I want to make dinner with you. I want to fall asleep in your arms. I want all the ordinary, beautiful moments that make up a life. Then that's what we'll do, Jesse promised. Spring came to Montana in a riot of color, the land shaking off winter's grip with determined joy. The ranch flourished under their combined care, and word spread about the quality of Jesse's horses and his new partner's skill with the difficult ones. One evening in May, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, they sat on the porch with beers, watching the horses graze in the distance. I enrolled in some online classes, Alex announced. Literature and creative writing. I want to finish my degree. That's great, Jesse said warmly. You should pursue that. I also submitted some of my poetry to a few journals, small ones, nothing fancy, but you're putting yourself out there. I'm proud of you. Alex leaned against him, fitting perfectly into the curve of Jesse's side. I wrote a poem about you, about us, about finding home in the last place you expected. Can I read it? Someday when it's published, Alex grinned up at him. I want you to see it in print, official, real. Everything about this is real, Jesse said softly. Sometimes I still can't believe you're here, that you chose this, chose me. Every day, Alex replied, I choose you every day. They kissed as the sun set, and it felt like a promise of mornings spent working side by side, of evenings wrapped in each other's warmth, of building something lasting from broken pieces. A year later, almost to the day from when Jesse had found Alex in his barn, they stood in the same spot with friends from town gathered around. It wasn't a legal ceremony. Montana might not recognize their union, but Jesse and Alex didn't need the state's approval. They exchanged rings made by a local silversmith, inscribed with words only they could see, "You are my home." Marcus came from Seattle, genuinely happy for them, bringing his new partner and telling embarrassing stories about Jesse that made everyone laugh. The local librarian, who'd become a friend to Alex, read one of his published poems. Neighbors who'd initially been skeptical had been won over by Alex's genuine kindness and hard work, and they celebrated with the kind of joy that small communities reserve for their own. As Jesse looked at Alex, radiant in a simple white shirt, laughing at something Marcus's partner said, he marveled at the journey that had brought them here. From that desperate, frightened young man in the barn to this confident, loving person who'd become his entire world. "What are you thinking?" Alex asked, catching his eye. "That I love you," Jesse replied simply, "and that I can't wait to spend the rest of my life showing you just how much." "That's a long time, old man," Alex teased, but his eyes were soft. "Not nearly long enough," Jesse countered, pulling him close. They danced as the stars came out, surrounded by love and acceptance, and Jesse sent up a silent prayer of thanks to whatever cosmic force had brought Alex to his barn on that cold Christmas Eve. Some people said miracles don't happen anymore, that Christmas magic is just something we tell children. But Jesse McCrane knew better. He held his miracle in his arms every day, watching him bloom and grow and become everything he was meant to be. And that was the greatest gift of all.